Coming up on this episode of the Village Idiom.
You should see him in the Jeep when the wind's blowing. I know your face stretches out. Looks like Predator.
But I am worried when the elasticism
Starts to fade.
I'm just going to look like a basset hound.
Droopy dog had a stroke.
Yeah. And I will literally be able to make ends meet with my cheeks under my chin. And I'm talking about my face cheeks.
Dum dum da da, Village Idiom.
Hello and welcome to the Village Idiom.
We are a podcast that every week we choose a popular English saying, sometimes not so English, and take an admittedly shallow, hopefully comedic, once in a while interesting, if we're lucky, educational dive into its meaning, its usage, its origins, but mostly we're going to use it to hang our otherwise directionless conversation on. My name is Jurassic Mark.
And I'm Skitty.
You are indeed.
Oh man, we're just pulling these podcasts. We're bringing them close. You know what I'm saying?
I do something like this. Oh, where is
It's barely enough to make ends meet.
It's barely enough to make ends meet. A little Perry Mason for you.
Making ends meet.
Making ends meet. We're going to do that today.
Fantastic. I'm excited to actually figure out where this one comes from.
Did you do any looky looks?
No, I did some general research, and you do come across some things, but most of my stuff is just moronic.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so that's always helpful. I did come across this little bit of an anecdote to get things rolling. Poor bridge builders are just trying to make ends meet.
That's great.
Yeah, and I like the idea of connecting things.
Do you think they start from either side, or do they start in the middle? How do bridges get built?
I'm pretty sure you start from the edges. You got to start
And
from
work towards the middle?
Yeah, you got to go from the riverbanks.
So they truly do need to make ends meet.
Making ends meet.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's really great. That's actually really great.
Yeah, and so the idea of connecting things is that we'll compromise in the middle. That's a tricky one.
Yeah, don't compromise in the middle of a bridge.
That's not the place you want to compromise.
You want to more than make ends meet.
I remember it was a fun compromise. Out with another couple, and it's like, hey, let's grab a movie. We're vacationing together. It was an afternoon. It was hot. Let's go to an air-conditioned place, watch a movie in the afternoon. And so it's like, classic, the dudes are like, oh, let's see whatever Action Express. And then the girls are like, oh, let's go like mess around with our emotions, a movie. And it's like, oh, we're like, no. And they're like, no. And so it's like, fine, we'll compromise. And we ended up seeing, what's Goldie Hawn's dad?
Goldie Hawn's dad or husband?
I think it's dad. The guy, he's like the Escape from New York kind of.
Not Kurt Russell. That's her husband.
Is that?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Well, he did well.
Together they have Kate Hudson.
Oh, I'm off by a generation.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that you know me so well that you can jump right into my brain.
I'm like,
and unscramble.
John Voight? No, that's not her.
In my head, Goldie Hawn is still like in her 30s.
Okay, got it.
She's probably like 70 now. I don't know. Anyways. So yeah, we'll go see some terrible Kurt Russell movie. No one is happy. And so that's what compromise. It's like, so they could have been happy. We could have been happy. 2 people could have been happy, and instead 4 people are unhappy.
Right.
That's the building the bridge in the middle.
Yeah, but compromise is different than making ends meet. Ends meet. Like, what definition did I write down here? When you need to make ends meet, it means you want to have enough money to cover your basic needs and expenses. Like you just. What do you need to make ends meet? Not.
Well, it's a connection. See, it's a connection between a source and a need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
And so you're always trying to bridge the gap between decreasing or how close I can bring the need to the supply.
It'd be great to come out with a store. What kind of store, or what would you sell in a store called Bridge? Just like
Cards.
Card games, bridge.
Well,
because if you opened every one of your stores next to the Gap, so it'd be Bridge the Gap. Like,
that'd be awesome.
You just no research and development. Just wherever the Gap sets up, you set up next door.
You set up a bridge.
You set up your Bridge store.
Bridge beside the Gap.
Bridge the Gap.
It's like Cobb's and Kin's Market. You know, you always see those two together. I don't know why.
Oh, is that true?
I don't know if it is.
There used to be a thing, I'm going to get the names wrong, but I think it was Wendy's and McDonald's, where Wendy's spent 0 pennies on research and development. And wherever McDonald's set up, they set up a kitty corner. And they're like, why spend money?
They're
and
doing all
research
this hard work.
Yeah, if a McDonald's set up, it's got to be a good place.
They probably thought about this. We'll just join in.
Yeah, I can't remember which fast food
That's like following
organization it
that's
was,
good
but
advice.
that's what they were doing. Oh, did you hear that?
No,
You didn't hear that, honestly?
honestly.
Oh, well, if that was picked up on the recording, as I think we've mentioned before, our studio is on a farm here, and he's the guy who owns the farm has chickens. You probably hear the chickens sometimes. You didn't hear the rooster just now?
I did not.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe the recording didn't pick it up. Anyway,
Are we doing ignorance is bliss today?
No.
That's how I feel.
The chickens are I sometimes wake up to roosters, which sounds so old fashioned. But
that's fine.
right now it's particularly loud outside because the farmer who runs the place,
Slaughter day?
he started this is so ridiculous. I was going to make it sound funny. He's breeding chickens with fellow farmers, but he's basically been calling it a dating. He has an app for it for all these farmers, so it's like a dating app for chickens. But he's totally bailing.
They couldn't get their own rooster to
they're totally
take care of business.
Like he thought it was going to be a big money maker, but in the end, he couldn't make hens meet.
I ate that up so bad, so hard. Oh, this is a terrible dad pun. Oh, and what makes it worse is how much I ate it. I'm like, there's an app. You can't just go get your own rooster. You need a special rooster.
You need an app.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you for indulging.
Okay, so I did, so is that good? Are we good? Is the place coming down? The next step in the making ends meet. So you got an end, you're meeting this bridge building concept. And I came across something, I was like, oh, this is amazing water cooler talk. Okay. In Latin, bridge builder. You'll never guess what the word is.
I don't know.
Pontifex.
Okay.
As in pontiff.
Got it.
As in the Pope.
Okay.
A bridge builder.
Flying over my head.
The Pope's kind of function is this mediator, this God-man mediator, voice of God to...
Interesting.
And it's the pontifex, which is where they get the word pontiff.
And that is...
And it means bridge builder.
Like literally that's
Yes.
the etymology of these
Yes.
words. Wow.
Yeah, so there's other meanings in on pontiff, but yes, it's you go like, get in on the Britannica. Pontifex is a bridge builder.
Where's the word bishop come from?
No idea. Probably chess. So this, so that the Pope's job is this connector between.
He's making the ends meet.
He's making ends meet.
Interesting.
Yeah. So overall, I think that the church has made ends meet, and that they're doing okay, but as financially, but as far as connecting God to the world, yeah, the pontiff, the most holy primate. Which I just found fascinating. Bridge builder.
Well, Michelangelo's stupid then. That's man reaching out to God directly, that painting.
Well, it's just, but do they touch? No. You know what you need in the middle there? A pontiff.
Pontiff.
Yeah.
Wow.
Is the bridge builder.
So what was the bridge builder term? Not pontiff, but...
It's pontifex.
Pontifex?
Yeah.
Like with an X on the end?
With an EX.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, Latin. Bridge builder. Yeah.
Isn't pontificate a word?
Yeah, pontificate is like you, standing in front of people and telling them this is how it should be. You're pontificating.
So it must have the same root. You're connecting their minds to your thought, to an idea.
I don't know how deep it goes, but yeah. And like a great many things, there's I'm sure there's alternate meanings and
there can't be.
Whatnot, but it's I thought that actually is fascinating.
That actually
making ends
is.
meet.
Making ends meet. I was thinking about a loaf of bread, and if nobody ever wants the ends, and so if you always drew from the middle, eventually you make the ends meet.
Wow. What if they sold bread with no ends on it?
Oh, that seems like such a
endless bread.
Win. Endless bread.
We'll call it endless bread. You're welcome out there, entrepreneur.
How has that not actually happened? Legitimately.
Well, you use
nobody
the
wants those
bread.
butt pieces of bread.
You use the butt to preserve the second to last piece from getting all crusty.
So my kids never liked those end pieces,
Did
right?
you serve them sandwiches just made of that?
But with the crust side in? So at a glance, you can't tell.
But when you bite into
But
it,
you bite into it, you're like,
know.
yeah.
And something that's just dry, like just peanut butter. So it's like, this is the driest sandwich ever. No lube. I don't know. Yeah. Endless bread.
Endless bread. That's actually, I think we just came up with an idea. Mm-hmm. Because it sounds like, it's not misleading. Well, it is a little misleading. It sounds like it's all you can eat bread, but it's not incorrect.
That would be a great gimmick at a restaurant. Like,
That's what I'm saying.
Like
We
Olive
serve
Garden.
endless bread.
Endless bread. Well, I thought the bread was endless. It is. It has no ends on it.
No ends.
Yeah. Well, I want more. No, there's a limit.
That'll be another $1.
I thought you said it was endless. Well, the bread we serve has
Bread
no
is
ends.
endless.
The bread has no ends. We cut the crust off the ends.
We took the ends off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's unending.
And then we give the ends. This is basically top of the muffin. What was it called on Seinfeld? Where everybody people only want the muffin
muffin top?
tops. So they were serving only muffin tops on their little bakery called Top of the Muffin. Top of the Muffin to you, I think it was called. And then they're like, well, what are you going to do with the bottoms of the muffins? Oh, we'll give them to homeless people. But then there was protests, like homeless only deserve the bottom part of the muffins. Like, you're so insulting.
Right.
So what do we do with our ends of our endless bread?
French onion soup. I got it covered, buddy.
This is amazing. This is amazing. Endless bread,
And you use those ends for your French onion soup.
and you end it with soup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Endless bread.
You heard it here first.
Olive Garden,
If
you
this
got nothing
comes
on
out,
us.
if this comes out onto the market, I just wanted to go on record. What's the date today? I don't know. It comes out if it comes out after the date of this podcast. That's ours. We
Yeah,
want
we got
we want
copyright on that one.
3%
Endless
of
bread.
every slice of bread.
It's perfect.
It's the best thing since sliced bread. I hope the idiom changes to the best thing since endless bread.
The best thing since endless bread. Bread with no ends.
Yeah.
It's unending.
It's unending, endless. It's not unending.
Well,
But
it's
it is
it's-
endless.
It has been unended. Wave of the future. Wave of the future.
We've got your sourdough. We've got your whole wheat, your multigrain, your starchy white, endless bread.
Endless bread.
If they can call a loaf of bread Wonder Bread, we can have endless bread.
Well, because there's no wonder in it. It's a
There's
wonder.
no wonder.
I wonder why anyone survives after
It's
eating
wonderless.
it. I don't know. I think it's delicious.
Yeah, it is, actually.
So who knows?
It's,
Who knows how these
it's
things
just
work?
a loaf of sugar.
Making ends meet is
Okay.
is always like trying to push things to the end of the line. I was thinking about some of the shirts that I have that have gotten that don't quite fit anymore.
Okay.
And making ends meet with buttons. And so again, you're trying to it's a meeting of things. It's like a bridging, but but they're so strained that they look like they're
Right.
going to shoot someone in the eye.
Right. I went to Jurassic World Live this weekend,
What?
which was fantastic.
Tell it. Ba-na-na-na-na.
Yeah. So imagine Disney on Ice.
Yep.
So a show that uses that much real estate in the center of Pacific Coliseum.
So it's called. Oh, so it's a hockey arena aside.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's not on ice.
360 seating. Like
Yeah. And almost.
so.
And,
Disney on ice minus the ice.
Right. And they reenact Jurassic Park, basically.
Okay.
I mean, it's a whole new storyline, but life-size dinosaurs that you forget that you can see the people legs sticking out of the bottom and stuff. But,
Sure.
But like very
Just squint.
it was family friendly. It wasn't
Sure.
terrifying or anything, but it was like,
People being disemboweled by dinosaurs.
some limbs were lost.
Really?
Pterodactyls swooped in and took a guy off the ground into the rafters, and it was pretty great, actually, but also really corny. Like, a show, like, even at Disneyland, the rides are amazing, the environment's amazing, but when you go to their one of their live shows, it's got an element of corny.
Sure.
So, in that vein,
It has to carry.
yeah, in that vein, all ages. And anyway, all that to say is I wore my Jurassic Mark T-shirt that was made for me
Yeah.
near the beginning of us doing this podcast.
Crystal. Yeah.
And yeah, Crystal made it for me. And at the time, when she gave it to me, I'm like, oh man, I wish it wasn't a large. I'm never going to wear this. It was just huge on me.
I'm swimming in this thing.
It's a perfect, maybe slightly too small shirt right now.
So you could blame it on washing it in warm water.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One too many
it's
runs
not
through
the
the dryer.
2 years of weight gain.
Definitely not that. Well, if you've made ends meet so
But
well.
I've made ends meet to the point of the shirt is a perfect fit.
And the endless bread didn't help.
Exactly, yeah. So ends meet, making ends meet. Reality though, like making ends meet is like, you never want to live check to check, but so many people do. Like
it's not ideal, but there's times when it's tight.
And you think about your own life, like when you're younger or newly married, and times like you're working hard, like you suddenly have bills as a grown up you've never had before, and then a decade goes by, a couple decades go by, and you're making, sometimes a quarter or double what you made when you're in your early 20s, if not more than that. And somehow you're still just making ends meet.
The more you have, the more you spend.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. You got the bigger this and the more of that, and the kids come along, and
For sure.
and so, yeah, making ends meet is the bare minimum you can do without getting yourself in trouble.
Remember in restauranting when it was more of the making ends meet kind of phase of life, and you no matter what, it was just like, what's the cheapest thing on this menu?
Right.
That's what I'm having.
Yeah.
So I got to make ends meet.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just stretching every dollar. And then you go through a phase where it's like you have money, and then you get some of that those HelloFresh checks start rolling in, and you start living large.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I'm not, just whatever the heart desires.
Yeah.
But I don't know, you're just trained to think, maybe when you're poor so long, you're just trained in waste.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need that.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, I don't need that. It's like, no, you don't need that.
Yeah, that's like, some of the people that lived through the Great Depression carried on that frugalness because they knew, like, this is how you survive, is by being frugal, like getting by on
Making ends meet.
and no more.
Yeah.
Sock the rest away for a rainy day.
The before we get into origins, I heard this one other thought on this thing. Blah, 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 blah. Just when I make ends meet, someone moves the ends.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, it's like, I did it. No, I didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways,
You make ends meet, and then your Jeep has to go into the shop, and you're driving somebody else's car for a while.
You didn't.
Yeah,
Good try, life.
yeah.
Here's a participation pin.
Anyway, should we find out where this comes from?
Where does this thing come from anyway?
Let's take a little dip into the history.
I said some words, where'd they go? Where'd they go? No one can know. I turned around, I looked behind. Those words came from another mind. Origins.
Well, this is it's going to be short and sweet, but it is a little more interesting than I expected it to be. In fact, some of the clothing comments you made.
As long as the Village Idiom children have the same sentiment. It's more interesting than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I hope every episode's that.
What about it?
I'm sure we've let him down a couple of times.
For sure.
So the oldest example that I or anyone in the world of the internet could find, finding it in print, that is from Thomas Fuller's The History of the Worthies of England, 1661. And this is the quote: "Worldly wealth he cared not for, desiring only to make both ends meet. And as for that little that lapped over, he gave it to pious uses." So it was a little comedy in there, but basically he didn't care about wealth. He just wanted to make the ends meet, and then the rest was wasted on fun, which is kind of what we all do. But comments about this quote and that he's kind of making a joke about it suggests that he already knew the phrase. So it predates 1661. So the rest is speculation, but they're interesting speculations. So
Do tell.
It's often noted that it's from bookkeeping, in which the total at the bottom or the end of the column of income must at least match that at the bottom or the end of the expenditure column.
Making ends meet.
So they must meet, or they must match, and
That's good.
to make sure you're not living beyond one's income. Another one was it's also known in the form to make both ends of the year meet, which might kind of have the same connection if we think of the usual end of year accounting, except that this form wasn't really in print or used as an example until 1748, so maybe it was a bit of a stretch, not really an origin, but still got used that way. And then several people on the interwebs mentioned that it came from tailoring or dressmaking, in which the amount of cloth available might only just be sufficient to allow the garment to wrap completely around your body, therefore making the ends meet, and no more. Don't waste fabric. Just make ends meet.
Sure.
And so it was a regulation, for a tailor to save on his product, to save on his overhead by only making ends meet. And then the one that I like the most...
It's like wrapping paper. Don't you actually hate that?
Yeah.
When you're wrapping presents?
Just make ends meet. Don't waste paper.
So, but do you do that when you're wrapping paper? You're like...
And it's a centimeter off?
Or it's just that there's like maybe 2 or 3 inches of excess? You're just like, I'm just going to fold that over a few times.
Yeah, totally. On the ends, yeah. I thought you meant in the middle where you first wrap it and they're like, I'm 1 centimeter. And so then you cut a strip just to hide that gap. You bridge the gap, so to speak. So this one I like the most. There is a Polish saying, which I'm not going to try to say because I can't. Zygzak Konyak Zydkonsem is what it looks like to
Ain't
me.
got nothing on my sausage.
Which translated means to tie up one end with the other, and it evokes the image of it like a belt, like what you were saying. Like you want to make ends meet,
That makes complete
and
sense.
you want to have
on a belt.
Yeah,
that's great. So you don't want to be.
So even old
pushing
school, you
the
want to make
boundaries.
ends meet enough that you can kind of tie it like a bathrobe belt. This end has to meet that end, otherwise it's not serving any purpose. So to make ends meet means to have enough fabric or belt.
This will be very visual for the for the crowd. You can describe it to our listeners.
Okay, Skinny is right now taking off his belt.
Okay, so this is a full out leather belt.
Take it off.
Okay, before I show you, now this is the end of the belt in terms of making ends meet.
Yep.
What has gone on here?
There's one hole in particular that is being really stressed.
And what is it doing to the leather that is otherwise all perfectly straight?
It's bent it and stretched it and wrinkled it. It's a well-worn belt.
And so, is this like you're forcing ends to meet?
Well, you have 2 more holes you could have used, but is that just denial?
I don't know.
I'm not going to that last hole.
There's still 2 more holes before I'm full out lardy.
Okay, I'll one up you now.
Okay.
Now I'm taking off my belt.
Okay.
Who knew this would be this type of show, making ends meet? So I thought I came across the world's greatest. I'm like, I never need to worry about it again.
Is it a rope?
I have a few versions of this, or a few colors, I should say. This one's yellow.
Okay.
Yellow belt. It's stretchy.
What?
And I'm like,
How does it hold stuff up then?
you can still adjust the tension.
Well, I know, but if it's still stretchy, then
So it's stretchy. And I'm like, I said, when I first discovered this belt, and I'm actually a huge fan. This is a brand called Arcade. I actually watch for it because it's not very easy to find. And I'm like, I love this belt. And when I first started buying Arcade belts, I was telling people, I was like an advocate for Arcade belts. And until somebody, a mutual friend actually, at church, says to me, oh yeah, that's just like all the riders' pants. They all have elastic waist. And I'm like, I'm a toddler that needs an elastic waistband.
or pregnant ladies.
I'm like, why hasn't anybody made it a stretchy belt before? This is perfect.
I found these amazing pants. They have a front panel that stretches out.
Over my belly. Wow. That's called maternity wear. Anyway, I love these belts, and I don't care if it makes me feel like a toddler.
Do you have Velcro shoes too?
I don't have Velcro shoes, but
That's how
I wish I did.
it turns into that at the end, where you just old men with suspenders.
Okay, I'll confess this.
You
Speaking
have
of,
suspenders on under.
No.
Okay.
So I don't have Velcro shoes, but I do have. I just realized there's a theme here in my life.
That you're a toddler?
I have elasticized laces, so I tie them once, and now I can just slip my shoes on and off because
You're just an efficient person. That's what it is.
they just stay tied up.
Well, making
They're
ends
stretchy.
meet. There's several ways to make ends meet. Then
I'm stretchy.
yes, you are actually. Your face is made of rubber.
And so I'm worried about that because my face is very elasticized. I can,
You should see him in the Jeep when the wind's blowing. I know your face stretches out. Looks like Predator.
But I am worried when the elasticism
Starts to fade off.
starts to fade. I'm just going to look like a basset hound.
Droopy dog had a stroke.
Yeah. And I will literally be able to make ends meet with my cheeks under my chin. And I'm talking about my face cheeks. But who knows?
Put you in a wind tunnel. Well,
We have derailed.
We have derailed. Making ends meet. We need to make this beginning end meet with the final riddling end.
Oh, nice segue. That was beautiful. All right. Well, riddling. Whoa. That was loud. Did you find that loud?
It was a little crispy.
Anyway, riddling is a game we like to play. It takes a two-part trivia-based question, requires a two-part overlapping answer. Now, I usually give an example from last week, but last week you gave the final one, and I didn't write it down. Do you remember your last week riddling?
No.
The idiom was knowing which way the wind blows. Does that ring any bells?
No, not at all.
All right. Well, 2 weeks ago then.
Okay.
Ignorance is bliss, which we have mentioned in this episode.
Yes.
We left you with 1,000 megabytes is like happiness and the lack of knowledge. We already gave this answer away, but it's 1 gignorance is bliss. So it's 1 gig, not the answer. Ignorance is bliss, not the answer. The answer is 1 gignorance is bliss. And that's how you play riddling.
That was good.
I'm sorry I didn't write down your riddle.
That's okay. Me too. All right, I've got 2.
I've got 2.
Let me get this party started. Villegitimate children, listen up. Let's see what you got. See if you can beat out Jurassic Mark. Live frugally to pay your bills, says Gaylord Fokker.
Wow.
Live frugally to pay your bills, says Gaylord Fokker.
Well, clearly that would be making ends meet the parents.
Making ends meet the parents.
I got stuck for a second because I was like, meet the Fokkers. Like,
That's part 2.
but that's part 2, yeah.
Episode 2.
And you wouldn't say that in your clue. Okay, here's mine. Here's my first one. Hopefully you were listening today to the earlier reference of who wrote the first. Anyway,
It's over.
the author credited as the oldest use of Make Ends Meet is a reunion series for Bob Saget. The author credited and also named Thomas Fuller as the oldest use of Make Ends Meet is a reunion series for Bob Saget.
Thomas Robert Fuller House.
That's right.
That's good. I didn't have his last name.
You nailed it.
Okay, here we go. Number 2.
Yep.
Illegitimate children. It's Latin for a bridge builder. Movie about a Turing test to an AI humanoid robot.
Go ahead and say it again.
It's Latin for a bridge builder. Movie about a Turing test to an AI humanoid robot.
Or you say Turing, like Touring?
It's Turing.
Turing.
The Turing test, yeah. The Turing test is a test of a machine's ability to exhibit intelligent behavior equivalent to a human.
I haven't seen this movie, but I'm guessing it's Pontifex Machina?
Yes, that's
Okay.
the one.
Whew.
Ex Machina. Yeah.
Good.
Good one. Good for you.
I was like,
See, this is
I
why
still haven't seen that. I want to.
it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
I've heard good things. So I got
I heard
one.
things.
I heard things. Just saying. I got one more, but why don't you tell everybody how they
Villegitimate
can...
children would love to hear from you.
Play
Reach
along.
out on Instagram at the.village.idiom or email us thevillageidiompodcast@gmail.com, or whether it's the Facebooks, the YouTubes, the Twitters at 3 Minutes Gone.
That's quick. That was slick. You got that down. Okay, here it is. To have just enough money to live on... to have just enough money to live on the carnivore's pizza. To have just enough money to live on the carnivore's pizza.
I hope you know it, and that is 3 Minutes Gone.
Oh boy, I stumbled on my words, but did you get that one?
I think I got that
Okay,
one
good.
sorted out. Well, that's fun. It was good.
It was fun.
Little something, making ends meet, little
Making
history.
ends meet.
Making hands meet. We're doing it. I'm Skinny,
I'm Jurassic Park.
and these are the Village Idioms.
Standing on their own 2 feet.
Making ends meet.
Last 3 minutes gone.